Well, I think one of them said, this is why our generation is soft today.
Oh, yeah.
And
oh my God.
Part of me wants to agree with that. There's a lot of gentle parenting going on, right? A lot of people are taking that route because of this. It's like the polar opposite of all that stuff. And
it's like
all
your
the kids,
kid is like hitting people. It's okay, honey.
But it's all the kids that grew up seeing that, or they were in that environment. They're like, I'm never going to be that parent, right? And then they go to the total extreme, but they don't, I don't think we've seen up to this point yet what that's gonna bring, but I have a feeling of what it's gonna bring. I feel like it's gonna create a lot of super soft ass kids, like very, very soft ass kids, particularly our men and our boys. But the gentle parenting that's going on now is like, it's like everything is okay.
Yeah, especially with like Lil, because like a lot of like, just talk about it, but then there's gonna be kids that are not gonna want to talk about it, that will come swinging at you. And if you're just like, oh, I'm gonna talk about it, and then they just come swinging at you, you better be prepared.
Right, and that's why, right now, like if he hits me right now, I pop him back. I'm not obviously gonna use my strength, but I need him to know there's consequences to that. If you put your hands on somebody, then they're gonna do it back.
Though. Listen, our kid, when that's why I don't play that game with him.
I play rough with him on purpose.
I know.
Because I want him to know
He'd be swinging at your face.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that because I want to, like, when he tries to hit me and I hit him back, like, you have to be ready for that. And if you go out there to some other kid and you try and do the same thing and he's not playing the same game you are, now all of a sudden you get punched in the face and now it's like, oh, whoa, I thought this is just, you know what I mean? That's the last thing that I would want. Is for him to go out there and not be able to defend himself in those type of situations, because elementary school is coming up, right? I mean, everybody likes to, kids are kids, little kids. I got in hella fights in elementary. A lot of like bloody fights and like all those things.
Oh my God, I'm not ready for that.
First grade, second, all the way to fifth grade, like the kids are fighting. And if you ain't ready for that situation, then you're gonna be on the other end. And like a lot of times people like to run off at their mouth because they do with their parents and they saw no consequences for that. And you run into that one kid who isn't on that and is with the shits and you start talking that and they want to pop you now. Now we got to come home and deal with the kid that just got beat up. And now we're talking about bullying and all these other things. Whereas they could have just solved it with a good old fight. Like, I don't know why we're trying to prevent fights. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've never fought anybody.
I've been in a lot of fights, but I feel like you learn a lot from fights. So I'm not saying you should go out there and be looking for it, but I think as men, like a lot of times, and especially as boys, like you learn a lot about yourself in that situation. It's like, okay, tempers were rising, the argument's over, we don't know how to communicate anymore, it's time to get physical, someone's gonna come break it up, whatever. But at least you know and you can have that confidence in defending yourself. Right? And then there's the bigger kids that come around, like all of these things. Like Lil asked me, is there going to be bullies at my school? Like, yeah, there's going to be bullies at your school. But if we don't teach him those consequences now, when that bully does come up, what's he going to do? He's just going to do whatever the bully tells him to do. He's not going to defend himself. He's not going to stand up for himself.
No, I feel that.
I feel like because of the fact that, my brother was my bully. He was 4 years older than me. My dad, would put hands on us from time to time. But whenever I saw that bully situation in elementary school, I was the kid to come interfere when another kid was getting bullied. And if I saw you bullying that other kid, then I'm gonna step in and like, yo, like what's good? And a lot of times that's where a fight would happen. But
I love that.
But I had that because I knew that was wrong and I didn't like the way that it was happening to me. So I would go defend the kid who wasn't defending themselves. Mm-hmm. But had I not been in those situations and knew, that I was in a fight and those kind of things, I would have just let that slide and that kid would have, dealt with that. There's kids that will still hit me up today from 20 plus years ago. It's like, hey man, I never forgot, back in first grade when you did this, back in fourth grade when you did this. Like that stuff travels with you over time.
That's nice.